Hello everyone, today we are going to continue with the creation of a CRM using the DataButton tool in no code. In the first part, we saw how to define a CRM, how to identify the need, how to set up the specifications, and how to sign up on DataButton with a free account to create our own SaaS, our own software. If you haven't seen the first video, I invite you to click here on the video, which we did from A to Z to explain how to set up a gate charge and launch the creation of your software with DataBot. So for today, we are going to push a little further. We are going to move to a step that is very, very important, which is the database installation step. Today, for the database, we don't need to create a database manually or do the configuration. So today, the software, our codes, have the capability and strength to create all the possible connections for us. And for that, actually, I will show you how we can set up this step, which is a very important step. We made the technical choice to work with, in fact, Firebase. So I trust this database because it's a database, in fact, provided by Google. And it actually gives us access to create a free database. That's very interesting. And above all, it gives us the ability to create a connection with a password link and even to connect several providers, in fact. As you know, there are people who prefer to connect with their Facebook, others prefer to connect with Gmail. We will simply try to set that up. And in the end, we will have a system that will allow us to create accounts, logins, passwords, and access our back office. So see you in a moment. We will try to start by configuring Firebase and creating the connection with our no-code databot. Thank you. All right, so now we will move on to the second step, where we will actually install our .database, and we have selected the fail-based database. So you will see that when I simply ask it to actually install the second step. So here I can simply click here to launch the step, and you will see that the system will guide me and explain to me. Here's how I will proceed, so to actually create the connection between the database and my software. Because first, in order for me to actually create the database, I obviously need to first create my account and then provide it with the necessary information so that the system can connect to my database. Well, so now we will access the website, go to base.google.com. So here, of course, I will click on console and it will switch me over. In fact, on the page where I will do the setup, I must first ensure that I'm logged in with my Gmail address, because if you have multiple Gmail addresses, make sure that you have switched to the correct Gmail address here. So the first thing to do here, I will start by creating a new project. So I click here. I will create a project called Lead Master. I have the option to add the Google Developer Program if I want. So this is a bit for those who want to join this program, but it's not mandatory. I can choose not to take this option. And I click on Next. Now, it gives you the option to connect directly with Google Analytics. So there you go. It's optional, so I can choose not to take it. And I click on Create the project. So in a few seconds, the system will create a project for me. And you should know that within a project, I can actually create multiple databases. I can also create multiple storage spaces. But here in our project, we will only need a single database and a single storage space. So now I will continue and I will simply find myself inside this project. You will see that now I am connected to this project. If I click, of course, I can switch to other projects. Here, I am indeed on the correct project. And from here, I can simply start doing the initial configuration of my database. So now we will follow the steps. So here you will see that it asks me if I want to create an iOS project or Android or simply an application. So what interests me is actually this, the application. So then we will click on the web application. Here it asks me to give a name to this application. Well, I can use the same name as the project if I want, or I can change it, of course. And here I simply click there to save the application. So within the project, I have actually created this application that will provide me. Here are the information and the different data. So you should know that the information I'm interested in is actually this code here. So this code, if you will, is the configuration code for your system. So here we are going to copy it. We will place it right next to it, actually on a notepad. And subsequently, of course, we will communicate it to the system. So this code, so that simply the application will connect to this database. So you will see that the connection will be made automatically. It's the no code, actually, it's the data button that will handle making this connection. So I click on access the console. So you saw, so here I am on my application. So here the application is well connected. And so here we just finished the first step. For me to move on to the second step, it's to activate, in fact, the authentication. Remember, if I come back here, it explained to me, in fact, that I would need, in fact, to activate what we call authentication. That means users will connect to my application with, for example, a login and password. I can, of course, include service providers so that people can connect with their account. Facebook, their account, Twitter, their account, LinkedIn, their account, for example, Instagram. I can also allow them to connect with Gmail. All of these are service providers that I will simply activate from this interface. So let's go. I would like to start with authentication. So here, when I click on authentication, you will see that I can obviously create the authentication. You will see it's very simple. As soon as I click on start, it will offer me, in fact, what type of connection I want the user to use. So, as you can see here, I have the option to let people log in with a username and password. There is also the possibility for people to log in with a phone. When they enter their phone number, they will receive an SMS. Here too, so these are some of the different providers that I can add to my connection. So I'm going to do the thing. The simplest way is actually this one, to let people log in with their email and password. So they will simply create an account. So here I click and actually activate this option. There you go, the option is now activated. You just need to click on save to confirm this type of connection. Then you have the option at the provider level. You can click here to add the possibility to do it with Google, Facebook. So there you have several types of connections. It's not just that, you can add more providers. So once that's done, we have successfully activated that option and given Firebase all the permissions so that the system can simply add my system inside. So still on the authentication part, I will go here into the settings. And you will see that in the settings, I will actually authorize a few domains here. What does that mean? A few domains, meaning giving the application permission to connect to the database, because just having the configuration is not enough. It must have what we call here an authorization. And there in the authorization, I will simply click here to add a domain. And what is the domain? It's simply, if I come back here, you see when I try to do the deployment, in fact, that's the domain of my application. So here I will copy it. It's as if I have given it permission. If ever there is a request coming from that domain, we will allow it access. So there you go. It just added this domain. Don't worry, even if it actually removes it, the subdomain, it keeps the original domain, which is drferris.database.app. So this is my subdomain that has been authorized, and this is also a very important step. It should not be ignored, otherwise the system cannot be connected. Then I will click here on create. You will see that here I will actually find a fact and some databases there. So I will select this option, and here I will click to create the database. So here, apart from actually using the login and password, I can create a database. It's inside there where I will get much more information about invoices, databases, and information. Actually, that I will retrieve from my CRM. I would need a database that is much larger, containing tabulation and many tables. And so, of course, the system, which is the new code, which is the idea of a button, it's the one that will create the database. But I simply need to give it access to that database. So I start the creation, and it will configure it and add the necessary fields. So here we will leave everything as default. The ID of the database, we won't need the location. So here you are free to choose a location for your database. Otherwise, you can leave all of this as default. I click next. And so here, this is what we call a proposal data. Either I work in production mode, which means it's the final mode, actually. But if I know that I am just going to test, add a lot of rows to my database and test with the application, I won't need to create the final database. I want to keep the final database clean afterwards. So I choose the test mode. So the test mode, in fact, is simply that. As mentioned here, after 30 days, it will erase the information. Yes, that's fine with me, since it's simply a test mode. So now I click on create. So now it's actually doing all the configuration and setup of this database. And then the no-code tool, which is DataButton's tool. it will be able to detect this database and of course write inside the database. And that's what's very, very interesting. So as a result, you will see that the collection read has no line. In fact, there is no information, but later the system will have the ability to write anything inside my database. So, of course, remember that we retrieved some codes. So if I go back here to the project settings, I can retrieve them here. So it's just a little bit here. Here are the codes, in fact. This is the code that we have already retrieved. Obviously, we will need to copy this and send them back. So to our no code state button so that it can simply allow the connection with the database. Now, I would like to talk about an option. There is an option that when I click on create, there is what we call storage. So what is storage? It's simply a storage space outside of the database. Before we could create this for free, but today in fact it's paid. So the plans, just to get an idea actually, you have the option. Either I can select. In fact, this plan is usage based, meaning that if I filled, for example, 1 gigabyte, it will charge me for the 1 gigabyte. Well, it's not expensive, but still these are actually the storage spaces. It's simply here. If ever actually, I know that in my software, in my system, I would have saved a lot of PDFs to display, a lot of PDFs, a lot of PDFs, a lot of PDFs, a lot of invoices, a lot of data. It's important to simply have a storage space because the PDF format, it would be good to install it, not to store it in the database, but to store it in the storage space because storage is made for that. It is made to save images, to save a lot of data and information. But that, for me, when I create the CRM, I won't need that information. But still, it's a very interesting option. If you ever want to add it, you simply need to, right here, select a model. I often select pay as you go, so if I use it, they charge me. If I don't use the space, they don't charge me. For about 1 gigabyte, if you're going to consume 1 gigabyte per month, you should expect to pay between $4 and $5. It's not expensive, but still it's interesting to know. So here we go. I'm going back to my DataBot space, and here you'll see that it simply asks me if I'm ready to add Firebase to my application. I told it yes, I want to add it. And so then it tells me, here are your information and your data. So then I'm going to copy and paste the data. So these are exactly the data it requested. So look here. It's a little bit, the information, the constant and everything. I'm going to paste. So now it receives all the information. Okay? Afterwards, it tells me that I need to complete these steps, so the provider configuration. So that one we've already selected. We selected the provider, we just chose by email and password. We didn't choose Google. And also, it asked me to give domain permissions. We did that too. So as a result, we're ready. And now it tells me to activate the Firestore DataBot. We've already done that. So as a result, we have everything we need. So now I'm going to tell it, go ahead, you can start the installation. So now what it will do, the system will start creating. So now as a result, it creates the login, the logout, and does the configuration. Then actually it will restart the database so that all this is implemented in my system. So here the database configuration has just been successfully completed, as you can see. There's a little button there. I can also do, if I want, the connection test quite simply. Click on done. I click on test. So here. So now it's working on it. It's currently testing the database to see if it can connect or not. And that's interesting to be sure that everything is fine. We'll look at all this. It's success. So therefore it has no problem. So now it tells me that access to the database was done correctly. So now I'm trying to see. So now it's checking, it's verifying everything. And that's a good sign. So you saw that we didn't write any lines of code, no programming. We just created, activated. The database retrieved the configuration and provided it to our software. And it's the idea of bottom that made all the necessary creations. So here too, it just ensured the completion of the following steps. So now it's still working on improving me. The connection space. What remains to be done is that I simply need to create an account and try to log in with the Modpass login. Once that's done, then I can move on to the next step where we will work, what we call the user account. So it's the account where I can set the general parameters of the company. So there you go, it's just finished. And it even asks me to check to verify if all the information is correctly stored. Registration, verification, connection. So now it can ask me to tell it if everything is correct or not. To do this, it's very simple. I click here on deploy and tell it to deploy the application. So now it will simply try to create. Actually, for the interface, I can of course click here on preview, and you'll see that here. By the way, on preview, I can see that they just added the login, the logout, and that too. These are the pieces of information, so I let it finish once it is done. Actually, we are going to visit this page here to test the connection with the Guinea mode password, and well, the colon has just finished here. Here. I click to access the site, and when I scroll down here, I will actually have the option to create a new account. So these are just old pieces of information. So I tested it. So here, it asks me what the name of the company is. We are going to test. So imagine that we are going to enter the company name as Dr. Firebase. That's the name of the company. I will enter our email address just for testing, which doesn't exist. So here it doesn't matter because it won't send me a confirmation email. In fact, sending the confirmation email, I can, let's say, force it here in the system. When I click here, there's the option, look, the link sent by email, passwordless login, what does it actually allow? It allows the user, if they want to log in, to just enter their email address, and we won't ask them to enter a password. Why? Because they will receive a code by email. And so as a result, we avoid the password if we are sure they have entered a real email address because they can access it. There are also those who enable multi-login with an SMS. This means even if there is no password, they will receive an SMS, and this is somewhat to increase security a little bit. So for me, we were there, that's it. So here we are just going to enter an email address, we said, for testing. So there you have it, Arabesque. I will put it like this. This is the login, and we will set a password. All right. Well, choose the plan doesn't matter. So here, we're just going to put it like this. So we'll see here when I click on send. Did it save at the bottom because I see here? Actually, it didn't give me a message saying the registration has just been completed. However, I see here where it just added me as someone connected, you see. So that's it. It's important. So this part here, and it's a good part, but it's lacking. It would be good to add a message after the condition to say account created. So there I would need to tell it to add a message. And if I click on the logout, there we go, we'll save it, and that's good. And so there, the logout. It actually takes me to a page to log in, but for me, I haven't activated sign in with Google. So there I can actually give it this information. So we'll simply tell it here. So there we just needed to prepare a little message to guide it on how to update this data so that it's nice before I move on to the second step where it will enter the back office. Well, so there we'll tell it add a message. And there I will put the message when successfully or created when the user create a new account. And there, so this is the first information. And there I will also tell it add, or I will say add, but I think it will understand add a message like goodbye. So we'll put a message like that. Goodbye. When the user logs out, there you go. And so there you go. It's just a little bit information logs out. So there I can send, you'll see that it will take my remarks here. So it will try to work with them to adjust. Here's the design. In any case, these are a bit of details, but it's important to do it. That's my advice. And actually, you shouldn't dwell too much on those details. Always think about starting vertically first. That means for each module, create the important basic functions to have an initial version 0 that runs, that works. And afterwards, we work in a horizontal mode. What does horizontal mode mean? It means for each modules. In fact, we go back to it and handle it properly. In terms of design, here are some small details. So be careful to make it really perfect. But at the beginning always think about having a functional system where the functions work correctly, and afterwards come back. But if you spend a lot of time actually on the design side, we look towards AI and all that. Okay, that's fine, but somewhere it's going to consume a lot of time. And on top of that, your version 0, when you have a meeting with your superiors or a meeting with your client, or even for yourself, if you want to test with real users, instead of doing it after 2 weeks or 1 week, you'll do it after a month. And there it takes an enormous amount of time. That's what I advise you. In terms of mode, actually what we call an incremental mode, you finish, you move on to the next, but we have the possibility to go back to the start. So it's as if there you are. You have the possibility at any time to go back to the first module to work in a horizontal mode. Okay, there he tells me so. There you go. He changed this information and everything. So what I'm going to do actually, there you go. So he asks me to test. Okay, he tells me, let's see if it's okay or not. Then we will simply deploy and see a little if the work was done correctly or not. And we will test it. And then if it's okay, that's good. We mark the step as completed. If we really want to modify, we'll tell him, here, modify. It comes back that it works or it doesn't work. And there you go. He has done the deployment. So we will click here to test. So here we have account creation, and there we have the option to log in. So what I see here, in fact, it has greatly improved. Actually, the login page, this is very interesting. And as a result, I also took the opportunity to enable the connection with Google. So here you will see that it actually allows me to log in with Google. And if I go here, user, of course, adding Google is very simple. We clicked here, we selected Google, quite simply. There you go. It handles all the configuration. And on the user side, I simply created an account, so just with a test email address, this one. So as a result here, it now obviously allows me to log in with that account. We are going to test it. So here I will choose Google. And there you go. I will select the email address in question. There you go. It's perfect. So here we were simply able to connect. So I can come here. I can tell it next to this part here. That's fine with me. I will mark it as down. And now I can move on to the next step where I can work on the back office inside to create the account with all the settings, in fact, that are inside. So you will see that here, of course, there are some small descriptions, but I can obviously expand here to provide a bit more detailed descriptions, much broader, so that the system can internally develop the part back office. So I hope you enjoyed this part. We have just finished connecting the database and creating the user account. So let me know in the comments if you want the third part. A part where I tackle the back office section to complete the creation of my CRM. You will see it will go much faster here in the sections that involve setting up the back office, implementing artificial intelligence reports and exportation. So if you're eager for the third part, just write it in the comments. Part 3, and it will be a great pleasure to record the third part for you. Thank you.